Let's take you to this story now. The National Conventional Arms Control Committee has told Parliament that South Africa does not sell military weapons to countries involved in war and conflict. Recently, there have been concerns that some of the weapons manufactured in the country might find their ways into war zones. Dr. Moses Khanyile is the director of the Center for Military Science at Stellenbosch University, and he joins us now. Doc, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. What necessitated this appearance before Parliament's Portfolio Committee, considering that our legislation is clear that we do not sell arms to countries that are actively involved in conflict?
Good day, Ulri, and good day to your viewers. Yeah, you're right. Our national legislation prohibits any form of transfer or transactions involving weapons under certain circumstances. But to your question as to why they were there, to the best of my knowledge, it was the first time that they engaged the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. So the National Conventional Arms Control Committee, which is the overarching committee that oversees international weapons trade in South Africa, had to go and indicate to what they do, what their responsibilities are, and so on. I think it's more about orientating also the new Standing Committee on Defense.
Yeah, and also then looking at one of the parts, the point that was raised in one of the articles in the City Press not so long ago, that Russia, as an example, had mistakenly labeled one of the armored vehicle that was confiscated in Ukraine as a Mamba. And they also had placed a flag on a South African flag on that particular Mamba as well. Well, that particular armored vehicle, which in turn turns out to be the Elvis 4. Speak to us about the importance of highlighting when there are mistakes in matters of this nature and what those mistakes could actually lead to.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. When a vehicle or any military item is mis-ID'd or found in a conflict zone and happens to be identified or misidentified as belonging to a particular country or company, it might have serious implications. For example, it might be seen as perpetuating conflict. It might be seen as party to a particular conflict. It might also be seen, depending on the circumstances, as violating maybe international law, particularly arms embargo from the United Nations Security Council. And they can also have serious implications for the defense industry of the originating country, because defense industry relies on its international standing as compliant. If it is not seen as compliant, seen as rogue, as it then has implications for future business going forward, because it means it can potentially support terrorist organizations. It may support countries that are under embargo. And it means it is not complying with the international law on arms transfer.
Yeah. Another element to this discussion is looking at the work of the NCACC, the number of ministers, for instance, that are on that particular committee. You have the Minister of Police, you have the Minister of Justice, as well as the Minister of International Relations. The decision that was taken by the President to have Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni being the chairperson of this particular committee, what does that mean, and can we read anything into it at all, or is it just a case of here you have somebody who is a minister in the presidency and whose duties, amongst others, is looking over SOEs, and that is solely it? Some people may have argued that perhaps maybe it should have been the Minister of Defense.
Yeah. No, Look, the Act is very clear on that. The National Conventional Arms Control Act basically prohibits that the Minister of Defense be the chairperson, purely because of the conflict of interest. So the Minister of Defense will form part of the committee, but will not be the chair. It could have been any other minister. So there's nothing peculiar about it being the minister and the presidency. It could have been any other, as long as it is not the Minister of Defense. And I must point out that, in fact, the control of arms in the country is pitched at this particular committee is pitched at ministerial level, which is not the same with other forms of control of controlled items, because there's what we call controlled items that are controlled in terms of international law, especially those that have to do with dual goods and so on. So it is the only one that is interministerial, whereas when it comes to other areas of weapon systems, what we call weapons of mass destruction, that is more at officials level, that is controlled by the Non-Proliferation Council. It comprises mainly of officials, whereas when it comes to conventional arms, it is managed and overseen by the Interministerial Committee. And the primary reason for that is that our defense industry is only seized with conventional arms exports. South Africa no longer has weapons of mass destruction, as you will know that it is a former nuclear state, which it relinquished earlier as we moved into democratic dispensation.